walking up to this church gig that I'm about to play. It's a little windy out here, but it's a beautiful day down here by the beach. Today I'm subbing for a church as their pianist for their evening service, so I thought I'd take you behind the scenes to show you exactly what it takes for me to prepare, what I do to make sure I'm successful, and at the end, I'll tell you how much I get paid for a gig like this. I'm Ehring, and I help pianists turn their skills into income through accompanying. There's a church about 30 minutes from where I live that I've subbed at a number of times. I have a regular church job where I usually play on Sunday mornings, but this other church has recently asked me several times to sub for their 5 p.m. service, which works out great because I'm typically available at that time. So I'm going to show you what I do ahead of time to make sure that I'm ready, since there's no real rehearsal for the service. I just show up a little bit early and then play the service. So the music director at the church typically sends me digital copies of the music. So I've decided to put them on my iPad rather than print everything out. So I have a set list for this particular church because I've played there a lot, and then I put the songs for today's service up here at the top. One little frustration is that sometimes the PDFs come through in a format that isn't very readable on the iPad. You can see that this one has 2 pages together, and so it's difficult to read. So when that happens, I go through the set list from this church and see if I might have a better copy from when I've played there before. And then if I don't, I know that I might need to figure out something different for that song. So either I can print it and goof around with the copier trying to make it bigger and then rescan it, or I can just wait until I get to the church and use a hard copy for that song. They always have the hymnals available if I want to use those, so that's what I'm going to do today because I don't want to spend a bunch of extra time messing with photocopies and scanning. If I wanted to, I could also take a picture when I get to the church, save it as a PDF, and put it onto my iPad. For this service, I needed to select a prelude and postlude to play, so I chose a couple of pieces that I was fairly familiar with, so that I don't need to put in a lot of extra practice learning something new. Typically, if I'm subbing at a church, I'll choose something that I've played before so that I'm not spending a ton of time learning new music. Now, if I were playing a prelude every week at my church, I of course would have to learn some new songs. But at other churches, I don't feel the need to do that. So I've chosen a prelude and postlude, and then I also need a little bit of music to play during communion. But today I decided to keep it simple. I'm just going to choose something from the hymnal when I get there and then improvise a little bit on it. Usually I like to choose something ahead of time, like a hymn arrangement, but nothing really came to mind this week. And I know that communion at this particular service goes really quickly, so I only need a couple of minutes of music. The music director also sent me the bulletin with the service order ahead of time. So I made sure that I put all of my music in order in my set list. I didn't print out the bulletin this time, so I'll just get a copy when I get to the church. As I'm practicing the music, I like to mark what I'm going to play for the introduction to each hymn so that I don't have to figure it out on the fly. So you can see here, I just mark it with a little hash mark. Once I get there, I make sure I know how many verses they're singing of each hymn because they don't always sing all the verses. So I make a little note of that on each hymn so that I make sure I play the correct number of verses. I also time my prelude ahead of time so that I know what time to start playing the prelude based on how long it is. So I just finished the church gig and it went great. There were only a few people there, so that actually makes it hard because I feel like I have to really lead because I can't hear the people singing. So that was a little tricky, but everything went fine and I'll definitely be back. So for this service, it's a little bit of work ahead of time, but I've played for this church enough times that I feel pretty comfortable with what I need to do and what is expected of me. I get paid $150 for subbing at this service, which isn't bad. The service itself is short. The people are really nice and they have a beautiful Bösendorfer piano, which I love playing. And it's right by the ocean too. So they have a beautiful view out their big windows. So all in all, I feel like it's worth it and I really enjoy doing it. So there you have it, a little behind the scenes of one of my recent gigs. Let me know if you like videos like this and if you'd like more behind the scenes content. I'm Rachel Ehring, and I'll talk with you again next time.